Welcome to IAS project. In this video, let's talk about early Vedic period society. In our last video, we have talked about family. Now, let's talk about the role of women in early Vedic society. Rather than role, I should say status of women in early Vedic society. We have studied that early Vedic society was a patrilineal society and also it was a patriarchal society. I told you that patrilineal society means children get their last names or surnames from their father's side. And also in patrilineal families, the inheritance of the father goes to the son. In patriarchal families, men dominate within the family. Also, if a society is a patriarchal society, then in that society also men dominate. So early Vedic society was a patrilineal society as well as a patriarchal society. That is why during this period, the wife was subordinate to the husband. However, we should note that the wife enjoyed a respectable position in the society. The wife was called as Sapatni, especially if she is the wife of the head of the household. We have called the head of the household as Grihapati or Kulapa, and his wife is called as Sapatni. The marriages in early Vedic society were monogamous. However, there was also polygamy in certain cases. We have studied that polygyny was existing in royal families and noble families. Polygyny means that one man can marry two or more women. So this case was existing in royal families and noble families. But for other people, marriage was usually monogamous. Moreover, there was no concept of divorce that was discussed in early Vedic period. That is why marriage was considered as indissoluble. Indissoluble marriage means there is no concept of divorce. We also found evidences of widow remarriage in early Vedic period. We have discussed a practice called levirate. Levirate, as I told you, is a practice when a man marries his brother's widow. So such kind of practice was also there. It means that widow remarriage was there in early Vedic society. However, we did not find any evidence of child marriage during this time. The most important duty of the wife was that she took care of the household. So generally, this is the role of a housewife. We know that during Vedic period, sacrifices and rituals were very important. So the wife participated along with her husband in all major ceremonies. For example, in sacrifices as well as rituals. During early Vedic society, women were given equal opportunities as men, especially in cases of spiritual development and in intellectual development. Intellectual development simply means education. This is very important point because in later Vedic period, we will learn that women were not given these opportunities. That is why this becomes important in the case of early Vedic period. Whenever you study Vedic period, you have to compare every aspect that was in early Vedic period with that of late Vedic period. That is how questions can be asked in prelims. Moreover, we have also evidence that there were some women poets during the early Vedic period. For example, Apala, Vishwavara, Ghosha and Lopamudra were some of the famous women poets that were existing during early Vedic period. We already talked about popular assemblies like Sabha, Vidata, Gana and Samiti. During early Vedic period, women also could attend these popular assemblies. This is also a very important point because in the later Vedic period, we will learn that women were not allowed to attend these Samitis. However, during early Vedic period, women could attend these popular assemblies. So we can say that women had considerable deliberative as well as religious functions during early Vedic period because both these bodies were generally having deliberative function as well as religious function. We did not find any evidence of Sati Sahagamana practice during early Vedic period. This is also very important because this practice mainly came into importance during medieval India. We will talk more about Sati Sahagamana practice and Raja Ram Mohan Roy when we talk about modern Indian history. But for now, please remember that Sati practice was not there during early Vedic period. Moreover, in early Vedic period, having sons was considered a blessing. That is why people used to pray for sons. There is a term in Rig Veda called as praying for Pashu and Praja. Pashu and Praja here means that people were praying for cattle and people were praying for children. When we say children, they were mainly praying for boys. So this was the case in Rig Vedic society. So if there is a question in the prelims exam, why were people praying during Vedic period? Then the answer would be they were praying for Pashu and they were praying for Praja. Pashu means cattle and Praja means children. And particularly, they were praying for male children. At the same time, having daughters was considered as a burden during early Vedic period. So this again shows that there was no gender equality during early Vedic period. So this is about the role or the status of women in early Vedic period. Please try to imagine a mains question like this. Discuss on the status of women during early Vedic period. Answer it in 150 words. So I have mentioned more than 10 points here. You can easily convert these 10 points into 150 words. I will give you one advice here. Whenever you are reading any topic, just by looking at the topic or just by looking at the heading, try to imagine a mains question. And whenever you are looking at a point, try to imagine a prelims question from this. That way, you will easily remember the topic and its details. So after listening to this lecture, please practice writing the mains question like this. Discuss on the status of women during early Vedic period. I will ask you a similar question when we discuss later Vedic period also. After that, you also try to write a comparison of status of women during early Vedic period and later Vedic period. Alright, let's go forward. That was about the role or status of women in early Vedic period. Now let's talk about the food habits that the Aryans were having during early Vedic period. Aryans practiced agriculture as well as pastoralism. I told you pastoralism means cattle herding. So these people were moving along with their cattle into different pasture grounds. Once the grass there is depleted, they moved again into a different pasture ground. So this is what pastoralism means. They also practiced agriculture. However, we know that during early Vedic period, agriculture was not as important as pastoralism. That is why Aryans considered cattle as their wealth. At the same time, agriculture was also done, but it was not as important as pastoralism. Alright, let's talk about what kind of agriculture they did. These people cultivated barley. Barley is called as yavam or yava in Rig Veda. They also cultivated wheat. Wheat was called as goduma. As they were practicing pastoralism, they also got milk and dairy products from their cows. For example, dairy products like curd and ghee were consumed by these people. Moreover, they also consumed fruits and vegetables. Ghee has been called as grita in Rig Veda. So please try to remember these terms. Barley was called as yavam, wheat was called as goduma, ghee was called as grita. Moreover, for these people, barley was more important compared to wheat. So we can say that barley was the staple crop of Rig Vedic Aryans. These people also cultivated rice. However, rice was not important as staple food for early Vedic Aryans. Rice became staple food only during the later Vedic period. This is very important from the point of view of prelims. Rice was called as vrihi. So in Vedas, it was written that if you want to offer sacrifice to the god, then offer vrihi. Vrihi was considered much superior compared to goduma and yavam in case of offerings to the god. So we can say that rice or vrihi was considered more sacred compared to barley or wheat. During early Vedic period, killing and eating cow's meat was prohibited. Please remember this, because when we study later Vedic period, there will be a change in this. So in Rig Veda, cow has been called as aganya. Aganya means the animal that is not to be killed. So Rig Veda says that cows should not be killed. However, this can be interpreted in two ways. The first way is that cow was considered as a sacred religious animal, or cow was considered as having economic importance. So we don't know exactly which one. Whatever the case was, Rig Veda says that cows should not be killed. That is why we came to the conclusion that eating of cows was prohibited during early Vedic period. However, during later Vedic period, this thing has changed. Cows were killed in later Vedic period. How do we know this? We know this because a guest has been called as Gogana. The literal meaning of Gogana is for whom the cow can be killed. Very important from the point of view of prelims. So in the Vedic period, guest has been called as for whom the cow can be killed. The scenario here is that let's say you are living in later Vedic period and there is an important guest that is going to come to your home. Now you are expected to offer this guest cow's meat. So this is why the guest was called as the person who causes the killing of the cows, because when a guest comes, you are expected to feed that person cow's meat. This was the case in later Vedic period. However, during the early Vedic period, cow was probably considered as sacred and cow's meat was prohibited. How do we know this? Because a cow has been called as Aganya in the early Vedic period. Please remember Aganya as well as Gogana. Let's quickly look at some of the words we have encountered. Barley was called as Yavam. Wheat was called as Goduma. Rice was called as Vrihi. And Aganya means cow. The literal meaning of Aganya is that the animal that should not be killed. Gogana means guest. The literal meaning of Gogana is that cow killer or a person for whom the cows are killed. Please remember all these terms. Moreover, during early Vedic period, people also consumed some beverages. For example, there was a beverage called Soma which they got from Soma plant. So they got this juice from Soma plant, and after getting this juice, they mixed it with, let's say, milk, ghee and soaked barley and more such things, and then they consumed this drink. Early Vedic Aryans believed that when you consume Soma, you get immortality. That is why they also called Soma as Amrita. If you have knowledge about Hindu mythology, Amrita is basically a drink which can make you immortal. So Soma was considered as a drink which gives you immortality. That is why it has also been called as Amrita. There was another drink also. It was called as Sura. And this Sura was basically an alcoholic beverage. So please remember Soma and Sura, these were both drinks or beverages that were consumed by early Vedic Aryan people. So the drink Soma had a religious sanction. It means that the priests approved drinking Soma. Moreover, this Soma was consumed during sacrifices and rituals. That is why we can say Soma was very important for early Vedic Aryans. Moreover, Rig Veda also says that gods like Indra and Agni also consumed Soma drink. So we can consider Soma drink as sacred for Aryan people. However, the other drink Sura was not approved by the priests. So we can say drinking Sura was prohibited by the priests. So it did not have a religious sanction. However, Aryans also consumed Sura. If we talk about Soma, drinking Soma was also common in ancient Iran. In ancient Iran, it has been called as Hauma. So we can say that drinking Soma or Hauma was practiced by not only Indo-Aryans but also the Aryans that went to ancient Persia. We know that the ancient Persians were mainly followers of Zoroastrianism. And what was the sacred book of Zoroastrianism? It was nothing but Zend Avesta. Please remember these. We will discuss about this once again when we talk about Buddhism. But since we are talking about Aryans, I have mentioned these two here also. So in Rig Veda, the word Soma means three things. It represents Soma plant. It also represents Soma drink that is made from Soma plant juice. And also it represents the Soma god. So the word Soma in Rig Veda can mean plant or a ritual drink or a god. Whereas Sura means alcoholic drink, and Sura was not approved by the priests. But Soma was approved by the priests and it was happily consumed during sacrifices by all Aryans. Aryans even believed that gods also consumed Soma drink. So this is about the food and subsistence of early Vedic period Aryans. Now let's talk about the shelter and clothing of early Vedic period Aryans. Early Vedic period Aryans lived in houses that were made of wood, mud and reed. We already talked about what are mud and reed houses. During early Vedic period, both men and women wore two-piece clothing. Two-piece clothing basically means that they wore one upper garment and one lower garment. And these garments were generally made of wool. However, they also wore cotton and animal skins. But wool was the chief textile of Aryans. Very important from the point of view of prelims. Because Aryans came from Central Asia. And in Central Asia, it is very cold. That is why wool was the chief textile of Aryans and Aryans preferred to wear woolen clothes. But when they came to India, they also wore cotton clothes. So Aryans knew about sheep also because sheep gave them wool. From wool, they made woolen clothes. They also knew about goats. Moreover, when they came to India, they also knew about elephants because we find elephants in India. In the Aryan society, both men as well as women wore ornaments. So this is about the shelter, clothing and ornaments that were worn by Aryans. Please try to answer this question. With reference to Vedic period, which of the below pairs is not correct? We have 4 options here. The first option is milk is called as Grita, rice is called as Vrihi, wheat is called as Goduma, barley is called as Yavam. We have discussed all this. If you know the correct answer to this question, please write the answer in the comment section. Let's look at another question. With reference to early Vedic period, the word Soma does not represent what? We have 4 options here. A plant, a deity or god, honey, a ritual drink. We have talked about this also in this video. So please write the answer in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. You can download this presentation from our Telegram channel. The name of the channel is IAS Project. The link for this channel has been given in the description section below. Thank you.